You hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/inkdependence keeps this channel ad-free. Hello, folks. Welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and this is another ink from Narwhal. This is Nahvalur Narwhal Explorer Orchid Flower, which is a very nice, nice box, nice presentation on these Explorer inks. I got this from Narwhal back in January of 2023, so I've had this in pens for a little bit. Here's what the bottle looks like inside that box. Very nice little 20 milliliter glass bottle. These go for about $12 wherever you find Narwhal inks. I got this from the brand, so thanks very much for giving this to me for a review. Let's look at this on some paper. All right, here we have it on our usual Rhodia 80 grams per square meter paper, and this is a very interesting presentation here. Looks like you can see like where the lines are, like it kind of, I don't know, moved a little bit. That's kind of cool how it pooled there. You can see I used this in 2 pens, and as with Atlantic Blue, I wasn't really happy with it in the first pen I put it in, which is this one. This is a Narwhal Original Plus is what this one's called, and this has a fine nib on it, and it's a little bit on the dry side, I think, for me. You see I have pretty much used this up, but it was a little bit on the dry side for me, and so I decided to go ahead and put it in this Pininfarina PF1, which is a medium nib and a bit juicier, I think, without being too out of control. I didn't want to go too far on this one, but I did put it in this pen as well, which is a very nice pen, and it works out really well in both of those pens. I think it's pretty okay. So here we say kind of dry, but no hard starts. Just it kind of feels dry, and the line looks a little bit dry. If you use dry inks, you know what I'm talking about. So if you have a pen that has a out of control nib, this is going to be a good line of inks, these Explorer inks for you. Very mild shading, not great on the 20-pound paper, as we'll see here in a little bit. You can see a little bit of shading here and there from this pen, rather from these pens, but it looks fairly similar from each of these, which is really interesting, right? I'm not sure how that happened, that the fine nib and the medium nib are kind of the same. I don't really know, but it did. And it looks like actually kind of different colors. So here, I didn't have any hard starts, as I say there, but it's a little dry and it's kind of like just not super pleasing to look at for me. I don't know exactly why, but I love the color from this one. Like from this Pininfarina, it just comes out a different color. It's not quite as pink. It's a little bit more maroon, perhaps, but you still get a lot of nice shading there. But yeah, it still feels a little bit dry, but the flow is totally fine and it looks better. So I'd say put this in a wetter nib and you're going to like it a lot more. And that's the case with a lot of pens. Pens and inks and nibs, not all of them go together. Sometimes you find a combo that just is not fun, and that doesn't mean the ink is bad, and we just need to find the right nib and the right paper and that sort of thing for it. So let's go ahead and do our water drop test, and then we will look at it on some other papers and do some chromatography and look at it next to some other inks in this category. There we go. Stumbled because I almost got a little too much water on there. All right, let's switch this one around. Okay. All right, let's blot this up. It doesn't look like it's doing much. Like, I think this one's got some water resistance. Go ahead and do that. There we go. Keep the water from getting on the rest of the text there. Blotting is always better than wiping. Be a little more careful. There we go. All right. Yeah, so is it water resistant? Like, not exactly, but I can still see, I mean, look, a lot of the pink came up, but I can still see all those things that I wrote. And if I spilled water across this, I would be able to read this. So that's really good. So yeah, pretty cool. If anything, it just made it like brighter. I don't know. Really interesting. Here's the chromatography for this ink. And as you can see, that pink, I predicted that pink was going to stick around, and it really did. That pink goes all the way up here. And then you have a very nice separation here between the orange and this like really weird light blue line up here. So this is, of course, all the same ink, but really good color separation. In fact, this is a little bit lavender, and then pink, and then orange, and then very light blue. Really interesting what we got going on here in Orchid Flower. Almost like an orchid flower with the pink petals and then like the sort of light and orange interior. You get that sometimes. Neat. All right, here it is on our usual Staples 20-pound, 30% recycled copy paper, which is just very bad paper that you'll find in your office copier. It's not meant for for fountain pens, frankly. And you can see here, this ink does not do very well. It's got feathers and it's got spread. It just doesn't look good on this paper. It didn't bleed through like terribly, but it definitely did, even though this is a fine nib and that's a medium nib. Weirdly, the fine nib has less flow than the medium, but it bled through more. I'm not sure what's going on. That's weird, right? Like you see that sometimes, but it's still strange. And this is a very wet broad nib from this other ink. So yeah, not great for copy paper. I wouldn't use Orchid Flower on copy paper if you could avoid it. I think it's just not great there. Then here we have our Domtar Bold from our unfortunately defunct Blank Slate Paper Company, but you can find Domtar under the Xerox label sometimes, and this is pretty nice paper. I really like this Domtar Bold. So here we have two different nibs showing differently on this paper. Definitely you can see that the top one from the Narwhal pen is a little bit pinker, but like it's not a huge difference on this paper, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it's because this paper is ivory and not straight up white, but you don't really see much of a difference, which is interesting because the other papers, it made a big difference. And then on the back, just a tiny little bit of bleed here and there, not much. This paper isn't perfect for fountain pens, but it is very good and it's quite heavy. So, pretty nice. All right, next up, wheat straw paper. This is very good for fountain pens. And here we have let's see, let's start with this one. There we go. There's the Nahvalur Original Plus Matria. I don't know how to say the name of this. I think it's the name of a beach somewhere, but looks like it's a pretty pleasant color. I like it all right. I don't love the way it writes. You can see up here, like it's very pale up here. And so you'll see this sometimes with a sort of a thin or a dry ink where you start writing a line and the ink will just sort of follow the pen instead of just coming down evenly. And I don't love that effect, although I'm sure some people will, but it's just not really my favorite. But the swatch looks really good. And then here from the Pininfarina PF1, I think it's much better from that nib, just better from that one. Lastly, for paper trials, we have here Tomoe River. This is a Galen Leather Co. Everyday book with Tomoe River. And there is Orchid Flower right there. You can see it looks pretty darn nice. And then right here, this is Diamine Jingleberry from this this year 2022's Inkvent, and that looks pretty similar, doesn't it? It's actually a lighter pink than this one on most papers, but here it looks very similar. And there it is from the PF1. Again, looking great from the PF1. Really like that. Need that extra flow for this ink. All right, some colors that are kind of close. Here we have it on our Colodex card, link in the description. This swatch is the best looking I've seen this ink. It looks really great in that swatch. There's the original plus writing sample there from the fine nib. And then we have here Private Reserve's Arabian Rose. This is from the newer line of Private Reserve. Came out a couple of years ago, but still the newer line from them. Monteverde Gratitude, which is definitely way more purple-y pink. This is pretty close. Both of them are kind of, I don't know, mauve or something. Here's Pilot's Irishizuku Yamabudo. Amazing ink, very good stuff. And way more sheen, but the underlying color is kind of close, although maybe a little bit pinker or something. Then we have here Diatramentis Apple Blossom, which I think is very close. You don't really see these too often. I got this sample back in 2014, but looks very similar. And then here Papier Plume's Burgundy, which is a little bit darker and slightly less pink, but still in the same area here, and less dry on this one. So there you go. Lots of interesting colors in this family, although nothing exactly like Orchid Flower. Actually, if you want one that's like very wet, Arabian Rose, these new Private Reserves are much wetter, and this is kind of dry. So if you have a really dry nib, throw some of that in there. If you have a wet nib, throw some of that in there, and kind of balance those things out. It's a little bit of a balancing game when you start playing with fountain pen inks. So there you go. Thanks very much again to Narwhal for giving these to me for review, and thanks y'all for watching. Hey, check out this graph up here. It looks like some people still aren't subscribed, and that's weird. So let's hit that subscribe button, and let's make that graph 100% people that are subscribed. That'd be awesome. Tell a friend. Let me know what you think down in the description, and until next time, peace out.